Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about why you need to be databasing to build your commercial real estate career. And this kind of I guess it could go for investors and agents, right? So
absolutely, just about anybody in the business, I think.
Yeah, I think databasing is the most key. But you probably remember George Pino is the CEO of Commercial Brokers International. I've got a new guest today, Travis Tapp. He's a multifamily real estate agent with Commercial Brokers International, and he really started over the last year and has really been building a database. So I thought it was key to hear the steps that he has taken to really build his database, how he got started, and the path that he's taking and where it's taking him. So guys, thank you for coming on today.
Of course. Yeah, well, databasing is very, very crucial for any agent, starting or existing.
Yeah. Now, when you started, you were just calling on lists, right? That's all you
did? Very general list. I discovered soon after it's going to take a little more than just paying for a list with a handful of numbers that some software used. It really is a little more strategic.
I was actually going to ask, what's the difference between, because some people would consider a list a database. So what is, when we talk about databasing, and I think this might be helpful for the viewers, what exactly do you mean by databasing?
So databasing is as simple as creating a list that you're going to use forever, your entire career. So it's going to consist of owners' names, their contact information, and basically everything that you could use to know them before knowing them.
Sure.
And also it's going to be something that you will use as your CRM. You're going to keep notes of your attempts of contact, your experience. When you reach out and start calling them, you're going to basically give yourself notes. Say, hey, this is the wrong number. I got to go back and find a new one.
Okay. So a lot more than just contact information. We're talking about actual information about the people, the properties that they own, how long they've owned it, what kind of debt, all that stuff. You're kind of trying to get as much information so that you can use that so you know exactly how you might be able to help them out.
Absolutely. And it really is important too for each database, because each list in your database is going to be different. Some could be expired listings. Some could be some could be no listings at all, just owners that haven't decided to sell in the last 10 years. So each list or database, as you want to call it, is going to be a little bit different. So to all that information, you're going to want to get as much as possible.
I would bet that information is so handy to how you approach the call as well. You now can customize a pitch based upon how long they've owned the property, what the property's like, the area that it's in, if they've put in recent debt on or have to replace debt on it.
Absolutely. I mean, just having it, I use a system myself. It's just a dialer. But every time a new number populates, I already have all that information right there in front of me. So it's not like an ice cold call. It's a cold call, but I'm going to have a little information. I'm not going to sound completely ignorant when they pick up their phone.
Let me ask you now, how did you start building your database? What was step number one for you?
Well, step one, like I said, I paid for a list. And after I paid for it, I started calling and it was okay. But after I went through it maybe 2 or 3 times, the calls really started to slow down. I wasn't getting in contact with people. And so I started to reach out and I started to do my own research. I became a stalker online. Because I went back to all these people that were calling and I was starting to figure out why they weren't answering the phone. And sure enough, come to find out, this list that I paid for, I found out that it used a software, which was nice, but it's not perfect. It didn't take in account.
Almost nothing is.
Yeah. And so what I realized, they were pulling up home phones, which is great. However, if I'm calling people Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on their home phone, they're not going to answer.
Right. They're not there.
So had to get on, start looking up cell phones. There's plenty of tools online, plenty of websites.
Who do you use?
So there is TruePeopleSearch.com is a great one. It's free. You have to go on there, and this is one of those things too, databasing, it sounds silly, but it takes practice because you're going to get the wrong numbers and you're going to start figuring out these little tips and tricks and little tweaks that you have to make. But
it's almost like you're a private detective.
It is. It really is. It really is. And what's great too is the more you do it, the better you get. And what comes with when you get experience is it becomes quicker. So databasing, it is tedious, but it is something you don't want to spend 8 hours a day doing.
Yeah, you're probably doing this mostly evenings and weekends, right? And calling during the day.
Yeah, because it's, you get worn out pretty quick. I do it for maybe 2 hours, and then my eyes, I think I'm going cross-eyed. But this is something for all real estate agents to really, really, really put a little bit of time and effort into, because once you say do it really hard for like the first 6 months, you don't have to do it as much anymore. You're going to have this lesson, like I said at the beginning. You're going to have this forever, and it's going to be so helpful to you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, you're actually building data. You've got all this data now that you can organize, and it becomes a real tool that you can use to build your business.
Yeah.
And I think it's critical of just rolling calls every day. It's great, but if you're doing it with a purpose, and creating this information that really brings value, I think it's a key. What other tips do you have for us?
So I start with title, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see what it pulls up, and then
so you get the list. So you have a list.
So I get the list. So first thing I do is I contact a title rep.
Okay.
Say, hey, I want this zip code, or I want these expired, or contact whichever title company you're using.
Right.
They'll send it over to you, no problem. Once you have that, then you have to dive into finding the phone numbers.
Right.
So I usually check title on CoStar or True People Search.
Okay.
And I always look for two. Sometimes you'll get an email too. Always add the email. Always add them.
Yep.
And then with multifamily though, it gets a little difficult and a little tricky, because what happens is when you look at these title reports, when you look at the first owner's name, it's an LLC.
Yeah.
And the LLC.
Yeah, you got to fish and find.
So now it's almost like you're starting over, because now I got to go find the first name, right? I don't even have the first name. I just have
LLC.
So Secretary of State's website, type in the LLC name, and it's going to give you what's called a Statement of Information document if you find the correct LLC. Within there, you can find the CEO or the
managing member?
Managing member, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, then you start back over and go to True People Search, put them in there, and then get the name, number, email, add it into your database, done. Yeah. But those LLCs can be a little tricky.
Sure.
And also, just wanted to say, not that we're pushing True People Search, but there are some other tools out there as well, like Spokio, LexisNexis. LexisNexis is great. It's expensive, but there's some other good tools as well that are definitely available.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also important too, like when you contact people that have LLCs, there could be multiple people that own the business, or you could be getting just their work number. So again, that's why it's important to leave yourself notes even after you get all this information. If you call them and say, oh, the number's disconnected, or no, that's my sister's property, and you have to go back in there. And don't be afraid to ask questions when you call. If they say, no, you have the wrong number, do you know this person, or am I even close, or is this really just an absolute wrong number? And which it's fine, but it's good to know and kind of build rapport. So
sure, no, that's all powerful information. Now, the number of calls. I mean, it started off. I mean, you started off at ground zero, right? You
ground zero, yeah.
And now you're making calls 5 hours a day?
No, not quite. I can't do that much. No, I do about 2 to 3 hours.
Okay.
It's
when you have a roto dial, so that's
where I have the auto dialer, so I can do anywhere from 70 to 100 calls an hour. My daily goal is 100 to 150 calls. Within that, what I want to do is have at least 15 real estate conversations. Okay. So that means if somebody says, even if they say, yeah, this is me, and but they don't want to talk to me and just hang up, if I didn't ask them for business or have some form of a real estate question, I don't count that as a contact.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I go as long as it takes, which is typically a couple hours, to have 15 real estate conversations,
Okay. I just think it's so powerful to build that business. Again, it's not just if you're a real estate agent. If you're a real estate investor and you're out there looking for deals, you should be databasing as well. So, but I think this is very powerful information. And thank you guys for coming on today.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll put your contact information down below. And for those of you watching the video, make sure you give us a like. And if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe.